Hey there guys, how are you today, and welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. So, today we're going to go through the results of my F1 Fantasy League from the Bahrain Grand Prix. And before we go into it, I guess let's have a look at the results in the Bahrain Grand Prix, just to refresh our memories. I know it was quite a few days ago already. So the Grand Prix was won by Lewis Hamilton, the Mercedes won 2, Leclerc came home 3rd, Verstappen 4th, Vettel in 5th, Norris 6th, Raikkonen 7th, Gasly 8th, Albon 9th, Perez 10th, Giovinazzi 11th, Kvyat 12th, Magnussen 13th, Stroll 14th, George Russell 15th, Robert Kubica in 16th. Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, Carlos Sainz, and as you'd expect, Romain Grosjean failed to finish. So, from the Bahrain Grand Prix, you can see in our little league we've got here, the worst performer was Laurie, who got 94 points. Then you got myself on 111 points. Then Thomas F1, 127 points. Fast and Furious 1, that's Kyle, he's on 147 points. Then Seb on 157 points. And Robbie won for this week on 161 points. Good job, good job. So now looking at the overall leaderboard, we're going to now have a look at... So we're going to start with me actually, because I'm bottom at the moment on 194 points. Already 100 points behind the leader. That's pretty poor. So for Bahrain, I went for Hamilton, which was a good choice because ultimately he won the race, although he was a bit lucky, to be fair. Then I had Gasly as a turbo driver. I think Gasly is going to be the one that I change for the future, because although he did pretty well as a turbo driver, 34 points, right, it could have been a lot higher because he qualified pretty poorly, and as we know, didn't even get into the top 5, which is pretty poor for a top 6 even, which is pretty poor if you're in the Red Bull. Then we had Ricciardo, who was running okay in the points. Maybe he would have got points, maybe he wouldn't, but then he had to retire. He also hit his teammate as well during the race. And we have Raikkonen and Norris, who had good races in the points. And then I chose Renault as a team, and they had a double retirement over the course of one lap. Pretty poor. That's not very good for me, is it? So Thomas F1 on 198 points overall. For Bahrain, he also went for Ricciardo, who got minus 10 because he's a turbo driver. He had Hamilton, he had Raikkonen, he had Leclerc, he had Gasly and Toro Rosso for the team. So I guess the one to talk about here, this is my chance to talk about Charles Leclerc, who was fantastic all weekend. Pole position, was dominating the race, overtook his teammate in the race as well. But then, I believe he had one of his cylinders failed, so he was basically on a V5 rather than a V6 for the last 10 laps, was it? And Hamilton was able to get past him easily down the straight. And that was it. And I guess Leclerc was lucky to get a podium because the safety car, which stopped the overtaking, and stopped Verstappen overtaking him, gave him the podium. But Leclerc showed his class at the Bahrain Grand Prix. He kept positive over the radio the whole time, and good to him. And then Toro Rosso, who had a reasonable race, and I believe Albon, I can double check here, yep, Albon got into P9, and for a rookie, pretty good, and for Toro Rosso, not a bad race at all. For not as good as their outing in Bahrain in 2018. So next we're going to go to Laurie's team, which is now on 208 points. And he went for Hamilton, Verstappen, Magnussen, Perez, Raikkonen, and Haas for the team. So in general, I'd be against putting Haas for the team. I don't think either of their drivers are very consistent. I think Magnussen is better than Grosjean for sure, but I wouldn't trust either of those drivers for my team, personally. Verstappen had a reasonable race. Okay, he was unlucky not to get a podium. You could say, without the safety car, he would have overtaken Leclerc for sure and would have been on the podium. But ultimately, he beat his teammate all weekend, but he did say he wasn't completely happy with the car. And then, of course, Perez, I believe, came through the field a little bit, and Raikkonen had a strong race. But Perez finished, I believe, when Perez finished in P10. He started in 14th, but finished in P10. So it was a good weekend for Perez, and also for Raikkonen. So next up is Robbie, who we know won for this week, where he's currently in 3rd in this league on 221 points. And who did he go for? He went for Leclerc, Verstappen, Kimi Raikkonen, Sergio Perez, and Alexander Albon. So of course Albon did get a couple of points, which is pretty impressive for a rookie season. You have to be pretty impressed with Alexander Albon. I don't think he's a future world championship material necessarily, but I think he's a pretty good driver and he'll be in the sport for a while, I would hope. And then obviously you got Alfa Romeo there, so you got Raikkonen with Alfa Romeo in your team. And Alfa Romeo is not a bad choice to have. They're going to be scoring consistent points, to be honest, throughout this whole season, particularly with Raikkonen. And Giovinazzi seems to be improving. At least he didn't have damage to his car. And both Alfa Romeos did have some good racing and scored 26 points for you at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Now we're going to go to Seb, who's joint first actually on 294 points, but we'll put him here. We'll go with Seb first. So he went for Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Carlos Sainz, who we know retired, as well as Ricciardo, Gasly, and Beardman, Wingman, whatever you want to call him, Bottas, with Mercedes as a team. I would say obviously having Mercedes as a team is a good call, although it means you have to maybe cut down a bit in terms of drivers, in terms of how much you're spending. But to be fair, you've done pretty well there with your drivers too, and you got some good drivers. So obviously we talk about Ricciardo. He was a bit unlucky. I don't think he's been quite what he has been in the past with all his good overtaking. So we haven't seen too much of him in the Renault so far, and I'm hoping in China, where Ricciardo tends to go well, we're going to see what he can really do in that Renault. Of course, Sainz was doing well, of course he was battling Verstappen at one point, but then obviously retired. And then talks about Gasly, and then Bottas seemed to be having a pretty poor race and really fell a long way behind his teammate Lewis Hamilton. And now we're going to look at Kyle's team, also on 294 points. You got 147 for this past weekend. He went for Raikkonen, Stroll, who's maybe proving some of us wrong, to be fair, Hülkenberg, Gasly, and Leclerc. Not sure why Hülkenberg's got positive points on here despite retiring. I'm not too sure about that. And he had Ferrari for the team, by the way. So yeah, Stroll is proving us wrong, I would say. Hülkenberg kinda not sure how he's got positive points considering he retired, but what can you do? That's the game. And Ferrari on 42 points, so Vettel had a spin when racing Hamilton. It wasn't Hamilton's fault, it just happened. And then we saw what happened with Leclerc. But Ferrari still did well with 42 points. So yeah guys, that was my fantasy league for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to join the league, ask me for the code down in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys next time and review the results after the 2019 Chinese Grand Prix.